We will start drawing the model by drawing lines more or less in the middle and at the same height as we will have the model. That is, we clicked the mouse and left with ortho turned on 49.7 because dot is a decimal point. Stand up, and so we drew a line like that. But because it is to be the axis, we will move it to axis, so we will have a point line. The purpose of this was to draw to remember the height of this model here, so that you can draw it correctly. Then we need to check the latching settings, i.e. end point, midpoint, center point, quadrant, intersection of the perpendicular and tangent insertion points. We only mark this arrangement. Other locking points are not set because they will disturb. You can always do it if you need it. Press Ctrl with the right mouse button and choose a specific selection for one indication, and now that we have set the standard, that should work properly for us and AutoCAD will almost think for us. If we have an axis drawn, we will enter values A using the circle and diameter. Why so? Because there is the least probability of a mistake when entering numbers. Here we introduce that the center of the circle is at the end of the axis. After that it was as long as 29.8 29.8. Because we will need the distance to draw in the upper part of the outline. At the bottom we draw a circle with a diameter of 78.8, but one that will be moved away from this end by 5.3. We held a little bit over the end. We drove off this green line joined. That is, tracking is on, and now 5.35.3. That is, the center of the circle will be 78.8 78.8. And now why did we draw it so? Because now if we want to draw using the right size, it will be much easier for us because we draw polylines. We'll start from the inside. And as I do not want to point this point. It is right control. We say that the middle, and we have. And now the actual width is 0. To remember that we tell him it is. .3 enter, and now you are asking for the final one, so you must write 03, or we can accept because it suggests in this sharp parenthesis that it is 03. It will be. And now he will draw polylines with such widths and all subsequent polylines. And now there was a circle 2 point now to the quadrant of that circle. We're leaving up with ortho 7.7 enabled 7.7 and to perpendicularity. In turn, we repeat polylines. We say from the end to the quadrant, and that was what the circle was for. And to perpendicularity. At the bottom we will start right key again. And from the end we go 10 left. And now we want to draw at an angle. We use the relative indicated or shift monkey at 10, and now we must separate it with a minority sign and 120. we have an outline. These circles were just for me to point this point and this point. We no longer need it, we can remove it. It's good to have this outline made to be one polyline. Because on the other hand there is the same outline. In connection with this we will indicate objects which will be buddies and with enter on. And we say what we have to cut this and that. But these are three independent polylines. It's good to have it as one, i.e. chamfering it will connect us together, but at this point we won't be chamfering. Therefore, let's make a polyline addition. And this line, and we will combine this and this center. And we will see now it is one polyline. Now we set the chamfer, and because the parameters are unfortunately not set because they are 0 and 0, then we will set the range that it will be 1, and it will take exactly the same value as the second, therefore center is enough for the 45-degree phase or 1. We have to do this here and repeat this phase with it. Here it is supposed to be a radius, so we will round it, and the radius will be 3, so you have to set it because it is 0 or 3 enter, and we say it is to round. On the other side there is exactly the same outline, therefore we will not draw it a second time, we just say that we want to reflect this line in the mirror and enter. We still need edges here, which we must complete. Let's draw a polyline, and on the principle that perpendicular and escape right key perpendicular and escape right key perpendicular and repeat, and again we have the left side practically finished. Now here is the hole, we will use something like that. We are holding here. We leave the green line lit up, and because this hole is 20 well 10 to the right here, the circle did not pay to draw. Because the number 10 is to straight down and is perpendicular. In turn, we draw the thread 14 or again end point, because 14 is a simple number again. We leave, and we say 7 and to perpendicularity. To draw this thread, the hole needed is drilled, for the M14 thread is needed. 14 times 0.8, you can do it with such approximation that it will be 11.2. And 11.2, it's hard to share a little, so you can draw a circle like this 11.2 enter. And here we draw polylines from this quadrant. 2, and here you have to be careful because the center is closed, so we could catch the center and we want to perpendicular. Here you have to chamfer for 1.5 or phase, but the phase was set to 1. Therefore we need to set it to 1.5 enter and enter again. And the matter is done. And now we can chamfer it. Of course, the circle was only needed to draw. Now we draw polylines from the end to the end. We will fill these edges. Still here we have to draw holes spaced around the entire perimeter. But here is the problem, because again we have a size such that it is the diameter of these holes is 62.8. You would have to share where it is possible to put this middle, either on the bottom line here or on the top. It is indifferent to write 62.8 now. In order to have a place from quadrant to perpendicular where will be the axis of these holes, and we already have this in mind, we will immediately transfer this line to the axis layer for memory. And now here we have to draw a hole with a diameter of 10 and depth 6. We draw a polyline. The values E8 are simple, therefore we will set ourselves at this end from waiting for a while and we leave and we say that it will be at 5 because the hole should be 10. Six to the top and perpendicular to the top. It is similar here that we have to settle over the end to move away. There is 6, therefore only by 3 and to perpendicularity. We finished the escape. Of course we have drawn a half, so you have to do it on the other side. Of course we will use the mirror and we will have this hole. That it was a properly drawn outline. We still lack the axes that we used to draw. But in the end they have to be pulled out. We say about 5 mm this way. So as you can see, despite the fact that we have drawn smaller axes and they are to be longer after all, it is not a problem, because after using to draw points to indicate, we can actually extend it without any trouble. Of course, so that it was a correct entry, we still need to add a hatch here, so that we choose, because it is metal, we choose ANSI 31. We check the boxes, and because here it is a bit too rare, let's assume that it will be 0.5, you can choose some other factor. And again we could change the layer first and then draw, but change the layer to draw one element. Probably is too long a process, therefore it is more convenient to draw in this layer and flip to the appropriate layer. We are going to dimension, therefore it is worth it to flip the layer because there will be more elements. And now we will use prepared dimension styles. And so we start with the smallest diameter, and it will be threads cross section, because we will have a thread here, therefore we say it will be linear, we choose the end of the axis as the second. Now we leave from here and say that at 5. And we have the dimension set. We can measure it from where it follows that it is exactly 10 well because the extension of the axis was 5 and we set ourselves with the dimension line 5 from the end of the axis. The next dimension is the diameter dimension, i.e. we choose what the diameter that we have in cross-section. Then we start and say that here and now we will depart from it at 7. The next dimension is the full diameter dimension, i.e. and the linear dimension, and it is a dimension from here to now and here again from this dimension by 7. We have a diameter style, so at the bottom we will repeat the dimension. And from that at 5. The next ones will be later. Maybe now let's get to the linear dimensions. That is, let's take the dimension of Poland and set it so that from the end of this line to the end of this line, and then we go at 10. And now that you do not have to enter the next one, we will use the base function, which means that the first point is already indicated as the first one in the previous dimension, and only indicate the second, and I have already set the spacing of dimensions according to what was in the parameters, and there the value 7 was set. Next dimension, now we indicate so as to indicate here and here polylines and not the dimension and in height. And this dimension text is on the second indication. If it does not fit inside, it is thrown out on the second indication. Now let's move on to phase dimensioning. And again linear, and now here the line here and here we can leave at 10. Here, in turn, it's from our own yes, and we will set it here in half. We will break the rule a bit, but there is nothing blurred. The inscription is legible, so we can just give up a little bit of these special requirements. On this side we will do the phase now, i.e. here and dimension, and here there is not so much how to set up. Therefore let's set up in this way. Here we have to dimension this axis. Let's choose a cross_diameter linear end and end here and let it not blur. Let's make a distance of 7. The next dimension is the whole diameter. And let's take this dimension here, and now we will set this line from the end at 7. We have diameters. Therefore we will dimension this dimension, but here from end to end and here from this 5. This dimension has to be, well, depending on the group, how many 3 or 4 or 5 holes there are. We didn't create these styles because there would be a lot of them, but now we can do it like this. We will enter into the properties of this one dimension, and in it we write that where there is a prefix we enter that it is 3 or 4 times, well, depending on the group of holes. Let's assume that these are 4 holes. Of course, there are 4 Fi10 holes. We could do the same operation, but we can do it on a copy basis, because it's a computer, i.e. copy. We will move the escape and we will tell him to adapt to what we want to dimension now, that is here. And now that there is no problem, let's do it at the height of it, because we know that we will move by 5 and it will be okay. But here we have a situation that blur the number, so it needs to be modified. We still have the depth of this drilling, but we will do it as Polish style dimensioning. Linear, and here let's make it this. Now and here from this perpendicularity by 10. And we still have to dimension. We have Polish style, so we'll do the corner. This, and you need to set it so that it is readable. If we want to increase the accuracy, we must enter the dimensioning style and modify its value to no in this way, and now we have the angle to the nearest minutes. And here we have the rate left, and now that's why we were making a small marker of it. Center mark to indicate now that we know where this center is, because how we will dimension the radius now. This place of radius indication will determine how this dimension line will be placed, i.e. I can't predict in advance how this dimension will be set. And we can leave it this way. And we have now dimensioned. To set it up nicely, we'll use one more function. Namely, we will include the support layer. In which we draw a guide. One that will show us the area possible to scratch. However, when it comes to the recording itself, let's use yes. We will draw lines from the furthest point to the right, and let's assume that it will be FR. So we have the most right downmost. However, here the most advanced is half of this text. So we draw lines from base, but the text is 2.5, so the top of the text is at 1.25. And from here let's draw lines. Draw the same here from this base and offset 1.25 and to perpendicular. Let's finish it and let's do it trash. Now we draw the auxiliary line that will show us how the printed area is. And now to center it. That is, the outlined area should be centered exactly in relation to the outlined area. We will move the outlined area, i.e. our entire drawing, so that the symmetry of this line hits the symmetry of this line. Let's dimension it. Let's take dimension so from end to perpendicularity. And we will do the same on the left. From end to perpendicularity, let us slide here and see 219 ending 219. It is the same in so many decimal places. Of course the beginning must be the same. Because we did it center the center of the diagonal of the rectangle. Well, you don't need to check it, but for infidels why not? From the center to the perpendicularity and from this line to the perpendicularity, and here it is 6 to 6, 6 to 6, which is ideally a centered drawing. We did it in the auxiliary layer, therefore we can now switch to the contour. Hide the auxiliary layer. We don't have any rubbish and the whole construction is remembered anyway. At the end maybe we can still zoom all. It will show us if we have some rubbish drawn somewhere, because it can happen. For example, if someone is there when inserting the block or somewhere something is wrong, we could put something far. And it turns out that our whole drawing is just a small dot, but as it showed, so it means that there is no trash. Alright, we can finish the drawing matter. And go to print it. Let's turn on the laser layer, and this layer shows us how much is actually printed on a laser printer. HP LaserJet. NC Note printer prints without any margin, so these margins have to be taken into account. But if we draw this way, then see that really all these lines inside the frame have fit. That is, the whole drawing was definitely printed on an A4 laser printer. Despite the fact that AutoCAD will indicate that there is 100% to print here, it certainly will not print all these lines. That is, this external frame will certainly not print, but in the case of a printer, it will definitely cut even on the frame. Thank you for your attention.